Welcome to the Mike White Podcast, episode one. Here, got a very special guest, the person that actually introduced me to podcasting itself, Mr. Mike White Sr., my dad. So, really, just to overview the podcast, this is episode one. I'm going to be interviewing people. I think life stories are super interesting, and we can learn from each and every one out there. So, we'll start off with my dad here, and then I might do occasional book reviews as well. But Dad, how's it going? Good morning.
Good. Good morning.
So I wanted to start out with um, something from your retirement here. Uh, so my dad was a Air Force fighter pilot, and in his retirement ceremony, here's the top 10 lessons learned slash relearned in his career. So number 10, some pilots have 3,000 hours, and some pilots have 1 hour 3,000 times experience. When going to Vegas, take a wallet full of clothes and a suitcase full of class. He says limb fact there. A single conversation across the table with a wise man is worth a month's study of books, talking about debriefs. And limb fact, you're saying limiting factor?
Correct. Limiting factor.
All right. I'll keep going down through until number one, and we can talk about them later. But number 7, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Aggressiveness. Number 6, the greatest pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do. And in his case, that's baseball. Let's play 2, a famous Ernie Banks quote but applicable in life, enthusiasm. Forget regret, or life is yours to miss. So attitude there. Number 3, the most important thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. So in regards to being a husband and father. Number 2, the softest pillow is a clear conscience for integrity. And then number 1, live free or die. And in parentheses there, he says everything because it's applicable for everything. So I bring that up because I noticed, learning from you growing up right beside you, all my life, you're always studying, reading, learning, and trying to grow. So with that, I think it's awesome. And I just want everyone else to hear your story. So if we want to start from the top, I know you were born in Parma, Ohio, back in 1963.
Yeah.
So
when you start the podcast off like that, and what's amazing is when you read that was written in 2007 as I was retiring. But if I was going to write that list again today, I don't think the order would change, or I don't think any of them would change. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've noticed throughout your life, you've been really consistent in those things. So it's kind of curious how that actually, how that formed. And that's why I kind of wanted to go into your childhood growing up. So you were not originally Mike White. So
No.
who are you first? What's your first identity?
As far as I know, and obviously that none of this is all based on, I guess, just living life and hearing. I didn't really hear any stories, but I think I've seen a birth certificate with the name Lawrence Coleman on it. So I think I was Larry Coleman, and I think my middle name was Michael. So I think it was Larry. People used to call me Larry Michael. So
awesome. So you had, your mom, she was a teacher all her life, correct? Is that kind of going around, or when she had you, was she teaching, or?
I think when she had me, if I'm not mistaken, when was President Kennedy shot? He was shot in 62 or 63.
I think it was 62 or 63.
Yeah, I think it was right around my time, because she talks about when she was working as a operator, and when that happened, all the lights on the screen blew up, and she was doing operations with all the phone calls going on. So, but that's what was going on. So she definitely wasn't a teacher then, but shortly thereafter she became a teacher. I was in her 3rd grade class, so I was 8, or her 2nd grade class maybe. I was 7 or 8, so she was teaching at least by then.
Okay. Yeah, and so your family moved around quite a bit because you were only in Ohio for a few years, and then your dad he left, right? No real clarity there, but he's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still to this day, I don't know who my genetic dad is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was your next memory growing up? Like what was your childhood like?
Yeah, everybody talks about I guess look in the camera. Everybody talks about you have your first memory, and my first memory in my life, I think, is walking in snow with a friend. So that must have been in Ohio. I don't think it was snowing in Florida because I know we went from Ohio to Florida. So I definitely have memories of I was born in Parma, and then I have memories of Ohio, but very few cold memories. Just walking in the snow with a friend, like from house to house. And after that, then all my memories are from Florida and with sunny days and streets with relatives and stuff like that.
And you went to Catholic school, right, growing up? So that's kind of different than
Yeah.
I never experienced that. Do you have any good memories, or how'd you like that?
I mean, it's good discipline. That's for sure. Good discipline, good teaching. I was, they taught me some good study skills and stuff like that. I think my mom may have taught at a Catholic school, so that's probably why I went there. I don't think she had a reason. I don't remember if we were Catholic. I know my dad wasn't. My mom might have been Catholic, but definitely not a hardcore Catholic. But regardless, I did go to Catholic school till third grade, and then I stopped.
Okay. And then so you finally make your way out to San Diego, and at that point, um, your dad, so my grandpa Van, you guys were all living together, correct? And
Yeah,
is
yes,
that
we moved
when?
to,
Yeah.
excuse me. We moved to San Diego in 1972. My dad got a job at the San Diego Zoo, so we moved from Florida to San Diego. And I don't know why he decided to move all the way from Florida across country, but it worked out great because it was a great life.
Nice. And is this when you started getting into sports, or do you remember when you started playing sports?
Um, well, I'm the oldest of three boys, so as soon as I had brothers and stuff like that, my dad always played with us. So I don't know. Obviously, if I was like six, Dirk and Van were too small to play, but I guess it would have to be around 7 or 8 because when I was 8, and I was in third grade. I definitely remember playing sports. I remember being good at sports. So I would say probably third grade. Before that, I don't know if you think you're good at sports in kindergarten or anything like that. I can't picture it. But, so I guess probably about third grade.
And so, student wise, though, how'd you balance? Did you like class, or were you just wanted to get
Yeah,
outside, or how was that growing up? Were you studious?
I mean, I don't remember. I was a good student. I was a teacher's pet, stuff like that. So, and then I think I was one of those kids that the teachers liked. I didn't cause problems, and I had a pretty sharp brain, and I was fairly athletic. So I had a lot of things going for me, and nothing that really irritated anybody. So it was pretty easy for me in those days.
Nice. And did you have any idea what you wanted to do growing
No,
up? What was next, or anything like
just
that?
baseball. Baseball was my whole life. That's all I thought about as far as future is baseball and just playing. Not even future, present, past, and future is just playing baseball is all I thought about until, gosh, maybe even when I went to the academy, I was still thinking about baseball. Maybe leaving Palomar College. I know we're skipping forward. We won't, but uh, even all the way there, all the way up until junior college, I really didn't have any plans of what I was going to do in the future other than keep playing baseball.
And but your first job, because I know you weren't super well off, and I know you wanted to go do things. So what was your first job to get some money?
Well, my first job was I think it was the mall called the Vineyard in Escondido, and they were opening up and I still don't remember this. It was either Pottery Barn or what's the other one?
Tier one
The
or
Pier
Crate and
one, yeah.
Barrel?
Yeah, so one of those. It must have been a Pottery Barn, probably, if that was the first one. But they opened up, so I think I was 14 or 15, and getting a couple dollars an hour to help put things on the shelf and clean up and tear boxes away and that. So that was my first job that I actually got money for.
How old were you think?
Definitely below 16, so probably 14. No earlier than that.
Nice.
I didn't have any. My parents, we didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't miss anything. I mean, we always had cleats, gloves, stuff like that. We didn't have the greatest food and other stuff around the house, but I never felt like I was missing anything.
And did your parents like force you to get a job, or was that just you knew you needed some money and that was the way to get it?
Yeah, it was a way to get extra money.
Awesome. How'd you switch to the wild animal park? Remember?
Well, I'm trying to think the timing, because I definitely started working there when I was 16 or 17. I don't know when I think my parents got divorced when I was 15. So, and then my dad started dating Linda, my stepmom, excuse me. And she was the head of human resources at the San Diego Wild Animal Park. So it was just a natural fit that I would get a job there. My dad's girlfriend, hired for San Diego Wild Animal Park. So I started working there, and so all of my friends and everything. It was a long history. My dad worked from the San Diego Zoo to the San Diego Wild Animal Park, I don't know, 30 some years.
So you're there in San Diego playing sports, going to Padre games, going to the Wild Animal Park, having a good time, and you're about to graduate. And so you're talking about baseball, but was there anything else you were thinking about doing?
I tried to. I mean, this is probably around high school now. I knew, well, back in the day, you thought you were supposed to go to college. So I thought I would try to go to USC. I always liked USC. And I applied. Our math teacher, Mrs. Bolt, she had some USC connections, and I had decent SAT scores, and I was decent in math. So I applied to USC and got accepted, but I couldn't afford it. No scholarships, nothing like that, and I didn't pursue it. So I didn't go there. But I just wanted to go to college, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do other than just keep playing baseball. And USC was awesome at baseball, so I thought if I'd go to USC, I'd still be able to at least play at the highest level.
Awesome. So that didn't work out, but you ended up. You said you're talking about Palomar, so you enrolled in junior college there. Yep,
I enrolled in junior college because I didn't. I'm trying to think. Did I go to junior? Yeah, junior college. I don't know why I chose to go to junior college other than nowhere. I think the three places I sent my SAT scores was Arizona State, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and USC. And USC accepted me, and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo did not accept me. And in Arizona State, I don't know if I didn't go there or they didn't accept me or whatever, but I just didn't go there. And now I guess I don't really know why I didn't pursue going somewhere to college. And maybe I just was smart enough to know that if you don't know what to do, just 2 years of junior college is not going to hurt, or 1 year.
Did you think about the military at all at that point?
Not at that point, no. I don't know when my buddy and I, Brad Bill from high school, somehow we started thinking of the military together. He went Special Forces. We were going to go into the Army together as Green Beret Special Forces buddy program. And we went all the way through the process, all the way to the last minute, going down to sign the papers. And when we got to the recruiter's office to sign the papers as the buddy program, this is kind of a dick move by me, but I didn't do it on purpose. It's just when I got there, I just didn't feel like going through with it. So he went ahead and went on and went to the Green Berets, and I wanted to go back and give baseball another try. And so I stayed around to keep trying to play at Palomar. So I didn't.
And that's where. Okay. So you're right then you're at Palomar playing baseball. You probably, you still have the hope that if you do well in Palomar, you may be able to go to a college and continue playing baseball.
Yeah, Palomar baseball, they had some great players, and I mean, I don't know how many of them. I mean, a handful of them went to the pros, and so it was high level baseball. I wasn't among those guys, but I was playing among really good guys. I mean, I was backup for, I forget his name, Madsen or something like that, a big left-handed, or not even that big, but just a left-handed hitter, first baseman. He used to just hit the heck out of the ball, and so I didn't play much, and it's not like I got in an accident before I even had a chance to play much, but I would have been mediocre to average at Palomar, and who knows if I would have got better. But the only reason I got good at baseball in general is because, well, not the only reason, but Coach Vetter at Palomar is just a big reason why I continued on at the academy and played baseball well, because he was such a great hitting coach.
And he's still going strong, isn't he?
He's not, he's going strong. He's still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
He's not coaching anymore. I don't know. I'm sure his intellect is still there. I don't know how often he goes out and works with people, but I really don't know how old he is. I'm 59, and he was my coach back then, so he's probably 25 years older than me. So I don't know. Yeah, awesome. But he's great. Yeah.
And then, so you mentioned that you got an accident. So what was that, and how'd that affect?
Yeah. I was just going to Palomar in class, and I won't get into the details here because you can't tell them or you can't describe them that well. But bottom line is just trying to get to class at 8:30 in the morning, and bunch of line of cars, and I tried to pull out in front of a line of cars, and then somebody clipped me in the back of my car and knocked me into the ongoing traffic, and just totaled the car, my knee. I don't know if I passed out, but pretty good accident. Broke my kneecap, and I had to go to the hospital. So I wasn't going to play baseball that year, and that was pretty much the deciding year that I'm not going to play baseball at Palomar anymore. So I'll join the military. So I guess the accident kind of made the decision for me. But
yeah, how'd you take it back then? Because that was your main dream, going to play baseball, and then all of a sudden you shatter your knee. Do you think about trying to get through it and going back to baseball, or are you to what's next?
No, I can remember telling the guys at Palomar that I was going to go in the military, and I said they have baseball in the military, and because I listened to my dad, because my dad used to do sports in the Army, football and stuff like that, but he never talked about baseball, but he talked about playing football in the Army, so I figured I could play baseball in the Air Force. But Air Force is mainly just the normal Air Force is all softball. There's not many baseball leagues, but I found a way to play baseball, and we'll get to that anymore. But even where I was stationed, I went down and played city leagues and stuff like that. So I did get to play baseball in the normal Air Force, and then obviously at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah, that cracks me up when you say you think you're going to play baseball in the Air Force, when, in my Navy career, we have some pickup softball games that are just super bush league and not anything comparable to junior college or high level baseball. But so you decide the military. So how'd you go in the Air Force?
Yeah, I was going to go Army, and then when I came back, I think I don't know if the recruiter sent me that way, or I don't know what. Go ahead.
So I remember you talking about these books you would read about some CIA guy, and you were saying
Robert Ludlum books. Yeah, I wanted to be in the CIA because if you haven't read Robert Ludlum, I'm sure you'll eventually read them. Eventually, his books all started kind of being the same, but I don't know how many books he's written in his life, probably 100 or 200. But the first 125 to 150, or I haven't read that many, but the first, let's say 25 are really good, and then they started getting a little too standardized for me, so I stopped reading them. But I really wanted to go to the CIA.
And did you go to the recruiter's office saying, "Hey, I know this is the Air Force, but I want to end up in the CIA. Can you guys get me in touch?" Because there's no internet back then, right? So.
Right. Now that you said that, I do remember the conversation. I did go tell him I wanted to be in the CIA, and he did tell me the best way to get in the CIA is to learn a language. So he was the one that told me to go to language school. And, he did that because I'm sure that they have a quota of how many language students, because not many people want to join the Air Force or the military to learn languages. So, it was a good thing for him, and he kind of pushed me along to take the test and try to get in language. And I have a natural affinity for languages. So.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
So you're enlisted in the Air Force, and I'm sure. So you don't go right away. You do the delayed entry. So what do you do in between that time from, you have the shattered knee to getting ready for basic? Because I know you have to go through the medical examination as well. And are you training at all? Are you just chilling on the couch, or?
No, I think my knee was healed by then, so it definitely wasn't in rehab. But I don't remember doing a physical program. I do remember working out in Escondido with the baseball and hitting off the tee, but I don't know if that was mid-Palomar or post-Palomar before baseball. But there's a lot of time in Escondido where I was working out, just hitting off the tee at Escondido High School or any field I could. Valley Center, I would do some fields there. So I was living with my dad and Linda in Valley Center. So I would practice in Valley Center or practice at Escondido High School. So I think I was still just practicing baseball, getting ready for baseball because you could play baseball in the Air Force.
Awesome. And then, so basic training's next. Where was that at? And
Lackland in April of 1983. Yep. And
okay.
yeah, Sergeant Denuzio was my drill instructor. He was a really good drill instructor, but then later on he got kicked out for smoking weed. So I don't know where he's doing now, but he was a good guy during the time I knew him. Not that smoking weed makes you a bad guy, but he was a good guy.
Any lessons learned from your boot camp experience? You think it was pretty typical to what you see in movies, or I know that was pretty long ago. So
well, yeah, the lesson learned is, I mean, just the memory I have is the travel there, leaving the family, getting to San Antonio. You know, you're on your own for the first time, and so that's all the memories I have of that first day of travel, arriving in San Antonio at night, taking the bus from the airport to the base, getting off the bus, and then it all started. That's when it all started. When you think about it, from where we are from now till back then, I mean, that was a big turning point, that bus ride, and started my military career. You know, everybody's heard they start yelling at you right away off the bus, and it never stops.
You probably hadn't even taken many flights, because I mean, as a kid, when you were really young, you moved around. But once you're in California, did you even take a flight? Yeah. Did you take vacations anywhere? Or?
That's a good call. That's a good call. Did I ever? I can't honestly say that I'm not sure. That was not my first flight, so I can't picture any flight before that. I know we did a lot of traveling and road trips, but I don't ever remember. Well, no, I definitely didn't fly with my dad. He didn't like to fly, so definitely not with my dad. So if I took one by myself, high school. Yeah, we flew to Mexico. We had a Mexico trip since I was learning Spanish, so I definitely flew then. So maybe a trip or two that I'm forgetting about in high school, but for sure one. That wasn't my first trip. That's funny.
It's nothing like today. You can get your $70 fare Southwest, go wherever you want. It's kind of crazy.
Completely different. Yeah.
So boot camp, I know you excelled in boot camp too. You said you blame it on being tall. They're like, oh, they'll pick the tall guy for being the leader.
That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah. But that's what you pick. If you don't, they pick you first, and you get to stay there with someone else like the last man standing. So as long as you don't get kicked off, so I got picked first, and didn't screw up enough for them to kick me out. So I stayed the leader the whole time.
Yeah, and that's what I want to. I mean, they'll kick you out if you're not doing well. I mean, I saw that at OCS too. We had, they pick the tall guys, but you know pretty soon if they're going to last or if there's someone better. So there's some inherent leadership qualities. I don't know where you learned those, but just growing up. But do you remember what your mindset was or your attitude?
I don't know. It wasn't conscious for sure, but yeah, all throughout my life, all the stuff was saying, this natural leader, all that kind of stuff. I forget the comments on the report cards or stuff like that, but maybe they say that about everybody, but maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever. But I've always just set the example and people follow me. I don't know why. Set an example is the best way to lead as far as I'm concerned. It's the only way to lead.
So you kick ass in San Antonio there, graduate. Is the graduation a big deal out of boot camp? Did your family come out, or do you have any memories of graduation?
I'm trying to think I don't think they came out for the basic training graduation. I know my mom came to San Antonio for the D-Lab or DLI graduation. So I think that's what she made. I don't think she came to basic training graduation, but that basic training, I knew I had to learn language, but I still wasn't sure what language it was going to be, and had two choices. I could either do German or Russian, and I decided this in, I decided it at basic training. Like, it's a 6-week program, I think. And so like on week 4 or 5 is when you pick your language. And I picked Russian at that point. And I had a choice between Russian in Monterey or German in Monterey or Russian in San Antonio. And for some reason, I was smart enough to know that Russian would be a more unique skill set, because I thought everybody spoke German, or a lot of people spoke German. So I picked Russian in San Antonio.
I couldn't imagine. being an airman in Monterey. It's beautiful, but gosh, everything's so expensive there. I don't know what you
I
would
knew
do.
that too. Yeah, I knew that too. So that was definitely part of the decision.
Yeah. So you're staying in San Antonio, done with basic and airman. Uh, do you even have a car in San Antonio, or are you restricted to base? Or
No, I had a truck. I had a Toyota SR5, the black one, or brown one. That accident I got to that hurt my knee, I got a settlement for that and bought a car. So I've always had a car based on that accident. I started with my first Toyota.
nice. So now you're in Russian school, and what are your memories there?
Yeah, that was just, yeah, I can still picture it. I mean, right now, looking back, it's getting up in the morning, eating breakfast, going to class, 8 hours a day with an excellent teacher, Mr. Yakno. He was an outstanding teacher, and taking breaks, 50-minute classes, 10-minute breaks, 50-minute classes, 8 hours a day, and uh, then going back at night, in the afternoon, maybe playing some baseball or sports, because I still played baseball downtown with the San Antonio people, the Hispanic League down there. And so I would practice with a few guys and play baseball a little bit till the sun went down. And then study probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours at night, Russian, and then go back the next day and start over. So I did that for a long time. And about halfway through, I had a girlfriend, and that cut into a lot of that. But I had already had so much good foundation of study skills and Russian language skills based on working hard at the beginning that even when I had the girlfriend, I didn't trail off that much.
And so that sounds like definitely, busy schedule there. How was the peer pressure with your classmates where they wanted to go out and drink and, every Friday? And did you partake, or how'd you handle that?
No, it was. I don't remember being a big partier back then. No, I don't. I think I just was having so much success at Russian. I was really doing well in the class that I just wanted to keep doing well. So I just kept studying, and it just kept snowballing and getting better and better. I was getting hundreds on all the tests all the time, and everybody was getting mad at me. It was almost, they were definitely. So I don't even think they wanted to party with me.
So if you have, if there's future airmen going into being a linguist, what was successful for you? I know different people learn a little differently, but I'm sure your technique might be good for someone out there.
Man, learn languages. I guess they're really getting good at it now with all the technology and the different ways you can do it. So the way I learned is completely different than the way they have the opportunity to learn now. But just immerse yourself in it and do as much repetition. It's blocking and tackling. I mean, all the basic things, just do them over and over and over again. The pronunciation, the words, the memory, until you can do it fast as drills. It's almost like a sports practice, just doing drills over and over and over again until it starts to become second nature. And then I also did, I was introduced to the memory book in high school. I already had a good memory anyways, but then when I got the memory book in high school, I really pushed it up a notch. So
That's combination. I want to get the author.
Harry Lorraine, I got it right here.
Lorraine.
Harry Lorraine and Jerry Lucas. Jerry Lucas was a famous basketball player. He went to Ohio State, and then he played in the pros for many years. And then Harry Lorraine is just a renowned memory guy. Lorayne, the memory book.
And my take on that is it's very similar to like the memory palace approach they teach nowadays, and just association was like the big takeaway. Would you agree there? Is there anything else? If someone didn't know anything about the memory techniques, how would you describe it?
Oh, it's just creating stories in your mind and just movies. If you like movies, if you like fiction, if you like making things up, if you like just creative thinking, all you do is just create stories in your mind and link things together and just play the story in your mind and memorize it or associate things with things. It's really easy once you get the hang of it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I remember growing up, when you had knee surgery again later on in your career, and you were stuck at home for a few days, just I think you made Michaela memorize the presidents, and then I memorized the Super Bowl winners, and we just used that technique, and that was kind of my first intro, and it definitely works.
At this point, I would memorize a lot more stuff, but I'm having a hard time figuring out what you need to memorize or what helps to memorize. So if you have any suggestions or whatever, let me know, because I mean, I want to practice memory. I obviously I've memorized a few things that are really important, but I want to keep memorizing things that make my life better. And sometimes it's kind of hard to go through. Everything is so automated and easy now that it's hard to find things that's important to memorize.
No, definitely. Just Google.
Yeah.
So what about pronunciation? Because you didn't have YouTube. Did you have like cassettes you would listen to, or how do you know how they say things?
Well, the blocking and tackling, like I said, Mr. Yachno, he was a stickler. I mean, I can remember him standing in front of my face for, I don't know, what seems like an eternity. It was probably about 45 seconds, which is an eternity when you're repeating something over and over again. You showed us means, do it again. And then you say it, and you showed us. And so do it again until you get it right. And then he says, then Maladietz, when you finally get it right, outstanding, good young man, or like good boy. Maladietz is a good boy. But so, and if like pronouncing the L, lampa, lampa, if you didn't do the hard L and you think you're saying it fine, and he'd shake his head and and he would do the lampa, just getting the L right. He was a great teacher.
Would this be in front of the whole class that he's just standing there in front of one student making?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's a small room. It's about the size of 2 bedrooms, maybe 1 bedroom. It's almost 8 people sitting in a desk, like a kid's desk, where you got something to write on the side, and you slide into this plastic chair, and you got something to write in. And you sit there, and there's about 8 or 10 of you, and you do drills, and obviously sometimes he focuses on one person, or sometimes the whole class. I was really good at being in such an uncomfortable. It's a small room and not really comfortable desk, but I was once again not thinking about it. I was smart enough to realize that taking breaks was really important. So the bell would ring and 50 minutes, and you'd have 10 minutes of break. And some people would just sit there in class and during the break and not get up and go outside or whatever. And every time the bell rang, I got up and went outside. And I always told people, I did the math, and 10 minutes, 8 hours a day, that's a lot of extra time you're spending in class. And so I always got up when the bell rang. I still do that now. If I'm studying, I set a timer and get up and move around.
Definitely. And is this when you started working in power naps too?
No.
Or was that later?
No, I'm trying to think when the power naps came about, but they've been around so long. I mean, I've been sleepy all my life, but as far as consciously knowing to take a power nap, probably see Reese, definitely at Reese, and not at Palomar. So it probably been right at the beginning of the Air Force. So maybe at after graduating from the academy, or sometime in the academy. Maybe the academy taught us power naps. Maybe that was something they taught the cadets.
Can you describe the best way to take a power nap and how long they should be for maximum efficiency?
I've rationalized to myself that whatever time limit that I set is the maximum, the best for you. So sometimes I take a 3-minute nap and think, oh, that's great for you. Sometimes I take a 9-minute nap. Sometimes I take a 20. If you get much over 20, then you're probably not bad. You're not doing yourself good. So I'd say anything between 3 minutes and 20 minutes. They're definitely micro naps. They're not power naps.
And you take these in your bed, or how do you do it?
Not in my bed. I learned that at the academy. That's definitely something they teach at the academy. The joke is you only do 2 things in your bed. You sleep, and that's the only 2 things you do in your bed. You don't read, you don't watch TV. That's it.
All right.
My whole academy. I mean, even my whole life. I don't know if I've got into my bed to. I mean, I've never consciously say I need to take a nap and then went into my bed to lay down and take a nap. I always take naps somewhere else other than my bed.
Yeah, most of the time I see you on the floor with like a little pillow on your head and your feet kicked up on a chair. That's what I picture you doing.
Yeah.
So you're playing baseball, the Mexican League in San Antonio. You studying. You got a girlfriend. Your time is full, and then you decided hey, I want to go see if I can take some college courses. Why were you thinking that?
Exactly right. Yeah. Why was I think you're just, the Air Force just kind of pushed education. And so I just was kind of doing what they tell me. That's a theme that goes along. They're kind of doing what people tell me. But, I, uh, they, I, yeah, I think you're supposed to go to college or take some classes. So I went down to the base education office and, just was going to try to take some classes, whatever, I don't know. It's definitely technically related. I was going to do math or something like that. I didn't have any plans, but when I got there, he saw my SAT scores and he saw how well I was doing in the Russian class, and he said, "You should try to get to the Air Force Academy." So he's the one that, and I can't picture the guy. I don't know what he looks like, but there was definitely a government worker behind the desk at the education office in San Antonio that planted the seed about the Air Force Academy. I didn't even know what it was. Never heard of it in my life.
You're just trying to take college courses, and so you apply, and you apply while you're still in school, and you just go back to Russian and kind of forget about it, or
exactly.
How soon do you find out?
Put in an application, just wait. Since you're in the Air Force, you don't need a congressman or a senator or anything like that. They pick I think they pick about 80 Air Force people a year to go to the academy. And so you just throw your hat in the ring and forget about it. It wasn't like I was on pins and needles. I just knew that I'll throw this out there and see what happens. And then I went back to studying Russian and just doing my standard routine. I wasn't thinking about, I wonder if the Air Force Academy is going to come through.
So
I told you the story is, my girlfriend and I were hot and heavy. I mean, we were in love back then, and she was a couple classes ahead of me. She got orders to Berlin, Germany, to do the Russian job. And that is a choice assignment for a young airman. I mean, travel the world, go to Europe. And so she had a great assignment. And then I got my orders to go to Misawa, Japan after that. And then she wanted to still be with me because you could trade assignments, but nobody would ever trade. I couldn't get to go to Berlin because nobody's going to give up their assignment from Berlin. So the only way we could be together is she gave up Berlin to go to Misawa. And she did that. And so she went through the process of changing her assignment from Berlin to go to Misawa with me. So now her and I are going to Misawa. And literally, the whole literally word, within no more than a week after that, probably less, maybe a couple days, we walked to the mailbox together, and I open the envelope and I get my appointment to the Air Force Academy that I've been accepted. So now I'm going to Colorado Springs and she's going to Misawa instead. And she ended up loving Misawa, so it did turn out fine. But it's she had no idea she was going to love Misawa. She went probably a year thinking, I really got screwed here.
Yeah. So you graduate Russian, when you get like 99% top of your class, just dominant, and you're going to the academy.
Yeah, I had no idea the academy made pilots. I didn't even know. I thought it was just a place to go to school. I didn't associate the Air Force Academy with being a pilot.
When did you start? When did you start thinking about playing for the academy baseball? Because I'm sure you had to know they had a baseball team. So
yeah, right away I knew I was going to walk on, try out. I mean, they didn't offer me anything. They didn't even know who I was. It was just I knew I was going to pay attention to the announcements and find out when baseball tryouts were.
Yeah. And do you remember tryouts at all? Or is it like a?
Oh yeah, it was good. I mean, in growing up in Southern California, you do baseball tryouts all the time. Every little league year, you do tryouts, and so I was used to the tryout atmosphere. So tried out the academy, and just so happened the Coach Robeson, he had a relative. I think his grandparents or something lived in Escondido. They were passed at that time, but had lived in Escondido, so he was familiar with Escondido, and so he kind of singled me out there. And plus, I was doing pretty well, and I ended up making the team as a freshman. But found out I was ineligible because I played at junior college, and you can't go straight from junior college to college. So they let me travel with the team, but I was not allowed to play.
So I think that's the year you were. What were your roles for traveling around?
I pretty much just a utility coach, like an extra coach, but I wasn't coach because obviously the other guys were as good as me or better. But I was coached first base during. I don't know if I was allowed. Yeah, I guess I must have been allowed to. That's weird. I wonder if I was allowed to coach first base or not. I think you could coach. So I don't know if they have any rules about that, but I remember being a first base coach there, and then I hit fly balls to the catcher and pop-ups to the catcher and stuff like that in practice, and hit ground balls and played catch. Just did whatever when you needed an extra baseball player to help the other team practice or to help our team practice.
Awesome. And was this the year you got to see Barry Bonds play in person?
Well, that was a sophomore year. I saw him. Yeah, my sophomore year. So
sophomore year.
Yeah. Freshman year, I don't remember taking any cool trips or anything, but yeah.
And
I'm trying to. No, I'm trying to think. Did I play? Maybe you're right. Maybe it was my freshman year that I went to that tournament, the RBI tournament, and when you saw the famous people, Barry Bonds, Mark Grace, people like that. So I'm picturing being there, but now that you say that, maybe I was just a spectator. Maybe I wasn't playing against them.
But could you tell that he was going to be as good as he was?
Yeah, he already had a reputation because of Bobby Bonds, his dad. So you knew that Barry Bonds, his son, who was really tearing up college already as we approached playing them. And then when we got to play him, he hit 4 doubles. No home runs, but 4 doubles. He went 4 for 4.
And he was a lot faster back then, right?
Yeah, he's small.
Thin guy.
Just small. Yeah, definitely. You've seen pictures of him like when he first started with the Pirates.
So what are you doing to train? Because now your whole goal is just to be as good at baseball as you can. I mean, you got these 4 years. What's your routine to be a good hitter, good baseball player?
Yeah, I lived at the Academy's field house. The field house is just a big. It's got a hockey rink, a basketball court, and a indoor football stadium all together in one building. And it's got like a food court with the snack bar right in the middle of all those 3. So whenever I was not in class, I would walk down there and just plant myself in that snack bar area and study, and then go from there. You walk down to the locker room and get my locker and change into my athletic, and then practice at the field house. They had also indoor batting cages that hung down from the middle of the football field, so I got to do there. So I hit off the tee and studied in the field house. So I was either in class. Very rarely was I in my room. So I was either in class or at the field house. You didn't want to be in your room because then the upperclassmen could get you. I tried to stay away from there up there. So I went down to the field house. And I mean, by then I was like a sophomore, so it really didn't matter. But I had learned that my freshman year too, just to get away from everything.
And did you have a person to train with, or
Yeah, Crunch Frankenberg. Definitely. I don't know for sure. When I was a sophomore, he was a freshman. Or no, he's 2 years behind me. So it must have been junior year when I started training with him. So I guess my sophomore year, I didn't have really many people that I trained with. It was just all myself, which is on the tee, which is fine. You don't really need that.
What's your tee routine? If someone's a young baseball player here wants to practice hitting on the tee, what's the best way?
You read the Ted Williams hitting book about dividing the plate into 9 quadrants, and he would only swing at pitches that he liked in his quadrant, which is a great way to be. But I still wanted to be able to hit in all quadrants, so I just put the tee in the nine different quadrants like a tic-tac-toe board, and just work on making sure I can hit any ball that's in any of those 9 squares. And so I keep randomly do that. I do it with 2 hands, with 1 hand, with a donut on the bat. I do as many different type of drills that I can hitting off the tee. I don't think there's any better hitting practice than hitting off the tee. And Coach Vetter, I don't know if that's his words exactly, but by his actions, I think he believes that too. He's a big tee proponent.
Awesome. And how your academics doing at this point?
Not good. Yeah, no, they weren't even good in high school. When you look back, I was only good at math, and not even that great, just good at thinking math. I think I maybe a 3.0 in math, but high school was a poor. I think I got like a 2 2.8 maybe. I don't remember my GPA, but it was not good in high school. So you wouldn't think I would get to the Air Force Academy, but luckily the Russian got me in. And then the Air Force Academy grades, they started out bad or started out barely average and then went downhill from there, just barely enough to graduate. I think I graduated with like a 2.6.
And then also I skipped. I saw on your intro, your Air Force Academy training, they have you had like a group of 120 guys, and you're selected the dually for that
that's
group.
The whole first year. Yeah, it was at the end of the year they picked the top freshman dually of the Air Force Academy, and the Air Force Academy has 40 squadrons, and they're divided into 10 groups. First group, second group, third group, and fourth group. So 10. I was in 16th Squadron, so I was in the second group. So at the end of the year, I don't think it's competition. It's just the leadership gets together and say, hey, who's the best freshman? And I got picked for dually of second group of the year. And then we did an interview competition between all the four people. And then Brian Bell, who's I think he's doing big things in business right now. He got dually of the year. He was good. He ended up being, I think, our class, whatever you call it, the commandant of the academy, or the cadet commandant. I don't know, but he was the best in our class.
And it's the same mindset of just what's right, do what's right, and just lead by example. Is there anything else that you did that you think you could learn off of, or?
No, it's just a standard thing. And I was thinking about, I knew you were probably going to ask me about lessons, and I don't really have lessons other than leading by example. But one thing I did learn, and I don't know who, but that the line about, General Lorenz is the one that said it, but also Keanu Reeves in Hardball says it. He says, show up. The most important thing is to show up. And then once you realize all you have to do is, or not all you have to, but once you show up, the success is showing up at the right place, at the right time, in the right uniform, with the right tools, with the right attitude. So all those sounds like, but if you do that, it's kind of simple. You just show up at the right place at the right time. Now, in the military, you need to be in a certain uniform. And in a job, you have to have certain tools to do your job. So you just got to make sure they're with you in your truck or in your car or on your person. And then the right attitude, I guess, is the discriminator. But as long as you're enthusiastic and not a Debbie Downer or whatever, I think the right attitude is you can do that, especially if you have all the other four squared away. Right place, right time, right uniform, right tools, right attitude.
Awesome. And then that ends up leading you to be captain of the baseball team there from walking on, not even know if you'll play baseball again, and come your junior year, right? You're now captain of the baseball team. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, once again, just doing what I'm do. But I got good at baseball because I was a big guy, and the standard thing is for baseball pitchers, you usually don't throw fastballs to big guys. For some reason, people think that they're going to hit the fastball. So they used to throw me a lot of curveballs, and I had really good hand-eye coordination. And I put the fat part of the bat on the ball and hit it on the sweet spot a lot, and a lot of curveballs. I hit a lot of home runs, but then once they figured out that I didn't have that quick a bat and I couldn't hit fastballs, they started throwing me fastballs, and I didn't hit near as many home runs. But why I became captain is I showed up right place, right time, right uniform, all that stuff. But I also was a good baseball player too, so that helped.
So you're there playing first base, a little bit of third base, and
DH. Yeah.
DH, smashing home runs. I saw that home run list your junior year. I think you were like third in the nation there, and then a little below you have Frank Thomas, and then like Robin Ventura,
Albert Bell. They're below me. Yeah.
And you guys got to play Oklahoma State, right? You played. Was that during his hitting streak?
Yep.
Were you part of that? You're part of his hitting streak?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure we were. Yeah, I don't know what number we were, but yeah, we were part of it. And we played them in a 4-game series. Oklahoma State was a fun place to play baseball. They have a great tradition there.
And you were an older guy there. You were 21 going into the academy?
Yep. So I was 23 by the time I was playing in Oklahoma State, 23, 24.
Nice.
Yep.
And so senior year, same thing. You're the captain. You said you said you didn't hit as well. You still had 14 home runs, which is awesome. And um, you graduate the Air Force Academy, and now you're just same thing. Or how do you know what's next? So you get orders, or
Yeah, the thing, just like I picked base for learning a language, either Monterey or um, San Antonio. At the Air Force Academy, you get to pick once you become a pilot. And I didn't know I was even going to be a pilot until like my sophomore year. And once you realize that, then you pick your pilot training bases. And there were five. There was Reese, Columbus, Vance, Laughlin, and Williams. Uh, Different places in the U.S. and they each had their pros and cons. But there was a hierarchy. Most people wanted Williams because it's in Phoenix and Arizona State and all that kind of stuff. It's just a fun place to be. And it just depends on your ranking in your class, who gets to pick what base. And when it got to me, Reese Air Force Base was open, and I heard good things about Reese. I heard there's a lot of wind, and it's good to learn how to fly in windy conditions. So that's why I picked Reese and ended up going to Lubbock, Texas.
And in the meantime, maybe pilot training was a little crowded. They had you just got to take a little bit of leave, right? You were stuck at the academy just teaching Russian.
Yep, you could pick your base, and you could also pick your starting date. So I don't know why. Probably hindsight 2020. Maybe I should have started earlier, but I thought if they're going to pay me not to do anything, I'll put it off as long as I could. So I picked like the October start date, and we graduated in June. So I had time between June and October where I didn't really have any responsibilities other than just being an officer. And so they tasked me as a second lieutenant to help teach basic Russian at the Air Force Academy. So I taught a few classes there.
Was that a different dynamic, teaching rather than learning? Was that how difficult was that?
You're practicing being a leader. So I was a second lieutenant. So I was against cadets or usually with basic Russian, I was mainly with freshmen. So they were kind of scared. He was a big guy, second lieutenant, scared. So they didn't act up much, but I wasn't trying to be their friend, but I also wasn't trying to be a professional teacher. I was just trying to teach them Russian as best as I could. So it was more of a tutoring session for the class is how I went about it.
And did you know what you wanted to do in the Air Force at that point? Like, did you have a platform you really wanted or a job you really wanted?
No, I knew I was going to pilot training, and I think the only fighter that I knew of, I didn't even know that the F-15 existed. We learned some things about certain things. And we saw, I guess, during parades, you would see flyovers and stuff like that. But I don't picture having a memory of a certain plane I wanted to fly, other than when I was in San Antonio in training at DLI, there was an A-10 that was on the corner on a stick that I thought was pretty cool. But it's not like I said I wanted to fly it. It's just that I thought that was a pretty cool looking plane. And so I went to pilot training just wanting to get through, and pilot training was very difficult for me. I mean, it was stressful and hard, but I made it through.
Because it's both academic and then you actually going through, you had simulators and then the actual real plane, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You go through academics at the beginning, and you go through a T-37, the simulator and the plane, and you go through the T-38, simulator and the plane. I think, yeah, that's what you do.
What was the most difficult part of pilot training? Probably sounds like it was more difficult than the academy, but is it the math? Is it the actions you have to take? Or?
Yeah, it was the responding to the unknown quickly and smartly, and with not too fast, not too slow type thing. Just responding to unknowns and doing the right thing. And just a lot of, the joke was you're always 3 rides from the beach, because if you washed out of pilot training, you're still in the Air Force and you're not going to do what you want to do, and who knows what kind of job you're going to get. But 3 rides from the beach. So if you have a bad ride and you fail your ride, then they give you a chance to make that up. If you fail that again, then you get one more chance to pass it. And if you don't pass it, you get kicked out of the program. So you're always 3 rides from the beach, they say. So that was the stressful part. And I got to I don't know. I guess it was an FPC, or I think mine was an IPC. So I didn't get to the last ride, but the ride before the ride that I went to have to fly with the squadron commander, and I passed it. And he taught me something that helped me the rest of my life about flying in the final turn. That's too technical for this podcast, but he gave me a tip that I used from pilot training as a second lieutenant. I used it the rest of my life all the way till I was lieutenant colonel. Every flight.
And that was because you were on the hot seat, right? Because you must have had some flight where you didn't do well, and then so now you have this extra oversight, and you ended up learning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, is this where you first start debriefing, or have you ever had any experience debriefing before flight school?
No, I at the academy, I'm trying to think if we did anything sort of like a debrief. Not that I can remember. So yeah, I guess the pre-brief and the debrief at pilot training is very structured, and yeah, so that's what sets the standard there. And it just got going into the F-15, it got more and more the rest of my career till I went back to the UPT.
Yeah, I was always amazed on your guys' like discipline of self-reflection and like continuous improvement through your debriefs, and then just the discipline in general. Is this where you started all together, setting your clocks at the same time, or is that a normal Air Force thing, or was that just
time hack? Yeah,
time hack.
Yeah. So
I tried. I love that aspect where you can describe it, but I tried to implement it on the submarine once, and it got shot down real quick.
Yeah. What
do they do? You guys, is it like a morning muster, or like what was that, the pre-brief?
Every briefing starts with a hack. So whatever time it's supposed to start, the GPS or whatever you're using to set the standard, which is usually GPS, or matter of fact, it is GPS. You used to call in at UPT, or in general, they called the phone number and put it on speakerphone, and it was that Siri voice from the Naval Observatory time saying, in whatever it'll be this, and so everybody set their watch then. And everybody, you set your watch all the time, every briefing, or you at least check it, make sure it's right.
Yeah, just the countdown, 3, 2, 1, hack, or ESA, and you just all reset.
Yep, 3, 2, 1, hack. Yep.
So how many people get jets out of flight school?
In my class, there was probably 25 to 30 people, and I think 5 to 6 got fighters, and about 8 of us got trainers, and the rest got heavies. Transport planes or refuelers.
So,
but I didn't. I was in the middle. I was upper of my class, but not upper enough in pilot training to get a fighter. So I got a T-38 as an instructor. I was fate. First assignment IP.
And did you still, when you got that, did you still have like goals to eventually get fighters, or were you?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Most FAPEs want to become fighter pilots. Most FAPEs that they're staying around or hopefully get a fighter, because they were close during pilot training, but they just didn't make it. So they're still. And then the competition starts over. You have a competition in pilot training to become a fighter pilot, and then if you don't make it, then there's a competition among FAPEs to get fighter assignments.
And that's just flying around the T-38, and you're still in Lubbock.
Yep.
Is that when you met? Training. Is that when you met Mom? And
yeah, she was. Yeah, right from the beginning of pilot training is when I met her. She was working at the commissary, and I would go into the commissary and see how pretty she was, how nice she was, and I would make eye contact with her, and so we would smile at each other, but that was it. So say hi. I don't even know if we said hi, but definitely we must have said hi. But eventually, we were having bad weather, and we weren't going to fly. We were sitting around the briefing room as a squadron, and one of my friends, Sailor Frankel, knew that I liked this girl, and I don't know if I told him I was about to ask her out, or if he said, let's go ask her out or whatever, but we got in the car. It was in like 9:30 in the morning, and we got in my car and drove over there, and she was taking her cart back from a customer, and I cut her off before she got to the back, into the park or into the store, and I just pulled up and rolled down my window. It was such a loser move, but I rolled down my window and said, "Hey, I've been looking at you for a while now. I was wondering if you would like to go out sometime." And she had a really good answer for as young as she was. She said, "I'd love to, but I don't think my boyfriend would like it very much." And so, and I thought that was a really cool answer, and I just went on my way. And then I still continued to look at her, but I wasn't pursuing her anymore. But then one day, the guy was taking out my groceries, and he put my groceries in my car. And as he was putting them away, I saw Cindy walking across from another car towards me. So I could tell she was walking towards me. So I met her halfway, and she said, "I wonder if that offer was still open." And once again, I thought that was cool, and I was all excited. And we exchanged numbers, and I told her I'd call her that night, and went back to the car. And the guy said, "What are you so happy about?" And I said, "I finally get to go out with this girl. I've been wanting to go out with her forever." And he goes, "That's my daughter." So her dad was bagging groceries too. So I came really close to stepping on it. If I would have said anything crude at all, I would have got really in trouble. So it's 100% true story. Nothing embellished there at all.
That's crazy. And people probably don't even realize, like nowadays, that was the norm. People would take your groceries out to the car and you give them a little tip every time you get groceries, no self-checkout, none of that.
Do they not do that in the military anymore, in the commissary?
Not anymore, no. I think they started when I first got in at Charleston. There was some the Charleston commissary did, and then they switched. Now they have like the cart returns in the parking lots, and I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah,
but man,
but that was in '88. I think around October, well, maybe no, it was longer than that. It must have been February, because I think our first date was in February. So February of '89.
So '89, yeah. And I'm sure. So your FAPE duty, I'm sure it has a. You know, it's going to be 2 years, or could it be earlier if they say, "Hey, we want you to go be fighters"?
Yeah, it's usually about three years, but it could go earlier, it could go later, and it all depends on the needs of the Air Force and timing. And it just so happened that about the time I was about to get assignments, there were no fighters available, and so I kind of gamed the system a little bit and got another assignment. I went to March Air Force Base to fly the C-12, the T-38 in the ACE program, so I still wasn't in the real Air Force, and I kind of delayed getting my real Air Force assignment for a couple more years till maybe fighters opened up. So it's funny, I wasn't as gung-ho about getting a fighter as everybody else, but I was taking all the proper steps to get a fighter. I was doing everything you were supposed to, anything any rational person would do to try to get a fighter. But I wasn't going crazy. It wouldn't have killed me if I didn't get one, but I just did, increase my chances as much as I could without going crazy. And I went to March Air Force Base, and then after I served there for 2 years, then there was a little more fighters available, and I had a little more experience and a little more track record, and so then I got my fighter from March.
And I know you've been journaling.
That's where you were born.
That's where I was born. And I was amazed by you've been journaling this whole time. So I don't know how you started doing that or what made you think, it might be beneficial. But I know even just Tony Robbins. Yeah. Yeah. Even your workouts, like even since then, you've been working out almost daily, and you track the workouts, the numbers. I don't know if it's OCD or.
It's OCD for sure. Yeah, it's OCD. Yeah, there's nobody tracks stuff as much as I do, and it's not even that detail. It's detailed, but it's not as, I guess, accurate or precise. It's precise, but not accurate. It gives me an idea of where I was, but definitely you wouldn't program your computer by my data that I put in there. It's more like there's missing fields and stuff like that, and a lot of gaps where I started tracking something and then I stopped and I started again. And so I have a whole bunch of patchwork journaling here and there, depending on if I was really into it or not. But overall, if you do that for decades, you have a lot of that. So it hasn't been a consistent fill in every detail of my life journal, but over time, all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, you definitely could read the picture.
And what motivated you to, I know you were waking up early, like 4 o'clock, sometimes earlier, and studying, reading still is, you know why you were motivated to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Success, once you start having success, you want to keep having success. So I was doing well in my life, and so I just wanted to keep doing well. So, just something recently happened where I did that same thing. I think I told you about. I can't remember what I'm thinking about, but yeah, if you're doing well in something, you just want to keep doing it. I think that's what I found.
Awesome. So now,
Tony Robbins is a guy that I started listening to him or reading about him and listening to him when I was really young. And his thing is if your life's worth living, it's worth documenting, or something to that effect. And that stuck with me. So I figured I'd document what was going on in my life.
And that's still consistent now today. Now it's easier to document with all these social media apps. And then you got Gary Vaynerchuk as well.
Yeah, his is completely documented other than his personal life.
Yeah. And so you're in March. You're flying the T-38 still. You're flying the C-12 as well?
It switched. While I was there, the program switched from flying T-38s to flying C-12. So I went ahead and went to training in the C-12 and learned how to fly the C-12 still before I got into the real Air Force. So I've flown the T-37, the T-38, the C-12, and then finally I get my assignment to F-15s.
And how'd you find that out?
Oh, I think my ops group commander who I was working for, I think he told me. I don't remember the specifics, but it wasn't like the same memory I have of getting my Air Force Academy appointment. I just was very happy that I was going to get the F-15. I think, matter of fact, at this point, I think I knew I was going to get a fighter because there was only a certain amount, and I think all the ones were fighters that were coming down to us experienced. I mean, I was a captain by now, so they didn't want to kind of screw me after being in the Air Force for so long. They didn't want to give me something I didn't want. So they gave us all, I think, a bunch of fighters. Maybe there were 5 or 6, and the 6 people that were coming up for assignment, we all picked whatever we want. So I think we knew we were going to get a fighter. We just didn't know which one. And I got an F-15. I would have been happy with any of them, but I definitely wanted the F-15 most.
Awesome. And so now you're going to Okinawa, Japan, and fly the F-15. Yeah. How is the training and preparation for that?
Yeah, you go to Tyndall first, and then from Tyndall you figure out where you're going to go, and you put your dream sheet in on where you want to go, and then you have an assignment night at Tyndall and tells you after where you're going to go. And when I got at Okinawa, that's once again, it's people don't think it's a great place to go, but it was, and so I was really happy to get to go there.
So is it Tyndall where I know you did the centrifuge, like you see the astronauts doing, and they do the G test?
Yeah. Do that before to make sure you're qualified to being able to fly a fighter. So I did that before even getting to Tyndall. Yeah. And Tyndall, where you remember me cleaning the bar and stuff like that. Those are the days that I would go to the bar and vacuum the pool table and clean up the bar. You remember all those days when you were a young child, but I think you probably still remember some of that.
Oh, definitely. Tyndall? Definitely. Yeah. And that's where we started jalapeno popcorn too, probably, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But
yep.
That's something I think goes a long ways, and it's not just for yourself, not for other people, but it's huge to be in a clean environment. And whether, the workplace, if you see a piece of trash, pick it up. If, even just vacuuming like you did, people may never know that you did that, but it's just a great part of like the teamwork. And I don't know, I feel like I would get some pride of just living and working in a clean place. But I don't know if that's 100%. When your cleanliness craze started, but.
Well, you say that and it's true, but it was mainly at work. Home, Cindy always kept a clean house, and right now my house is not as clean as it ought to be, but it's still pretty clean. But always at work, my areas that I worked was spotless. And I think that's because I really didn't like the preparing for inspection type attitude. People, oh, the boss is coming in, we got to clean this place up. I always thought that anybody should be able to come in anytime, and that's just the way it is. So I think that was my mindset, is keeping it so no matter who comes in, it looks good.
Yeah, I definitely found that in the Navy. That was not good for morale. Like the sailors really hated uh, cleaning for the inspection, and it's just for the inspection, and then the standards slip again. But the
Right.
workup and the emphasis, and then you kind of, I don't know, it kind of goes into integrity for me. Like if it's important, it's important, and you should always have it
Right.
that way.
100%. And they people think that they would be miserable by keeping it clean all the time. As opposite, you have pride in keeping it clean. So if the leader would maintain that this is how we're going to keep. I mean, I went to extremes. I always thought the base commander should ride around the base, and if anything wasn't perfect, he should be ashamed. And I really think each base, in theory, if you had enough pride, could look like the Truman Show or whatever utopia as far as cleanliness. If you can clean your office, then you can clean the hallway to your office, and you can clean the parking lot. And I mean, as long as somebody owns it, the area that they're responsible for, and there's plenty of people to own the areas, you can keep the whole base awesome. I think I never was a base commander, but the areas that I was in charge of, I tried to keep them as clean as possible.
So what's your take on cleanliness? What about like uniform standards? Why is it important to have a good uniform in the military?
It shows that you care. It shows integrity, and it looks sharp. The military uniforms are, for the most part, are always sharp. Obviously, they have some every once in a while that go off the rails a little bit, but in general, most of the military uniforms really, if you're wearing them properly, if you're in good shape, you look sharp and you look like a formidable threat, which is what you're supposed to be in the military. You're supposed to be kind of intimidating to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, how did physical fitness fit in? Was it a good lifestyle in the Air Force, like where your peers all value health and fitness, or was
They
it kind
did
of
at the
something?
academy. The academy was a lot tougher than the normal Air Force. Normal Air Force was not near as tough as the academy. Academy had great fitness. Very, very few, if any, heavy people at the Air Force Academy when I was there. I don't know what it is like now, but then you go to the regular units and the standards start slipping, and you get people there that are just, they know their job so well, which is good. You need to know your job, but then they say, okay, I'm indispensable. I know my job. I can let other things slide. And that's what happens, is people think they're indispensable because they know all the secrets of the place, and then they just let some standards slide instead of keeping everything up.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going into the F-15s. How was it like first time flying a F-15 fighter jet?
Yeah, then now you starting to, if I was not a humble person, it's hard to stay humble when you get in there and you see all that. I mean, up until then in my life, I was done everything, always doing well and having success. But once you get there, you're amongst the best of the best, and there. And I still had, I mean, it's just different. To be among those guys, you start to feel, the guys and girls, you start to feel pretty cocky. But I think I held it in check. But it's hard to hold it in check because it's just awesome. I mean, you think of the power, the technology, everything that's involved in making that thing fly and making it as lethal as it is. It's amazing. And I know you experienced the same with your submarine. And
Not near as fast. Not near as fast.
Yeah,
they're impressive feats of technology for sure.
Right.
And you guys were actually going on deployments too. There's actually some stuff going on. So did you know your workup schedule, and when you were about to head out?
Yeah, I was in the first squadron that ever deployed to Desert Operation Southern Watch, as far as from the Pacific. We were from the Pacific Air Forces. The 67th was the first squadron that went over there and did the job from there. So my flight commander, Breaker Bob Craven, he was the project officer there, and I was in the flight, so I did a lot of helping him get ready for that deployment. So that was good. That was my first experience in the the real Air Force. Tyndall, we're skipping through Tyndall. Obviously, you're talking about being in the jet for the first time for learning to fly that. I realized at Tyndall how difficult it was to fly, and I realized at Tyndall, that I'm not the best fighter pilot in the world, and so I just knew that I had to keep learning and keep doing my best. But when I got to Okinawa, then I started just being part of the mission and working for Breaker and working for the whole squadron, and still trying to get better. But at that point, I think I'm already a mid-level captain, senior captain. I don't know if I still had the drive or at least the belief that I was going to be a great fighter pilot one day. I don't know if that ever, I don't know if I ever believed that could happen. It never did happen, but I was a fighter pilot, but definitely not a great one.
At this point, there are your peers who are going to weapons school and things like that around that part of their career.
Yeah, the best ones are. Yeah, and I couldn't even sniff that.
Was it stressful? I mean, because you had a ton of success up to that point. You've had some, many failures, and you could have gotten down, and having the adversity at the F-15. Was there how'd you keep trucking?
Yeah, there was some failures, and it was a lot of introspection. Not keep track. You never would give up, but you just, do I spend my whole life trying to be a better F-15 pilot, or do I, accept being a mediocre F-15 pilot and then do other things in my life? Have a family, do things that are fun or whatever. So I just tried to set the dial where I wanted to. I mean, some people, the F-15, that have mediocre skill like I did, they set the dial and they decide that we're going to, do all in on the F-15, and then they sacrifice everything else, which is fine. That's their choice. I think I realized that even if I put in all the time, I don't think I ever could get to those guys' levels that you needed to be not credible. I was credible. I mean, I was a member of the team that did great things, but I wasn't a clown by any, I wasn't a clown at all, and we didn't have any clowns, but yet people that were close to being clowns, and I wasn't that. But definitely, you have a standard that the F-15 would not sacrifice its standards for people. If you didn't meet the standards, you were not going to continue to fly it because it's dangerous for other people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you could take it to the extreme and spend your whole day at the squadron and sleep at the squadron and constantly study, but it's not a very healthy. Maybe for some people it is, but for most people probably not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the NBA. He's talking about telling his son if he could go in the NBA, and his son's 5'4" or 5'5" and doesn't have a lot of skill. But Gary Vaynerchuk says, you can if you start practicing shooting half courts from now, because you're going to be competing against 6'8" guys, point guards that and so it's possible, but very, very, very small chance. And that's where I was. For me to be a great fighter pilot, it was very, 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 very small chance, and I just set the dial where I wanted to set it.
And so, how was flying in actual, overseas versus your training in Okinawa? Was it similar, or was there a different aspect to it being deployed?
Training was harder as far as preparing and debriefing and briefing, because and when you're deployed, you don't have as much time to brief and debrief. You got to get ready for the next mission, because it's mission after mission after mission, fly, sleep, stuff like that. So different mental aspect. You still I've flown, I guess, in combat you call it, but I never really got shot at, or I never had to shoot at anybody else, but I was prepared to, and we had some things where we possibly could have, but I was always a wingman over there and stuff. So my F-15 combat days are nothing to brag about, other than I was prepared to brag about them if I needed to, if I was ready to. Just never the opportunity didn't present itself.
And so training, whose job is it to structure your training? And because I feel like it's a perfect amount of training where it's quality training, but it's also you're not bringing the guys in every weekend and just constantly flying. First, it's going to cost a lot of money, and then the people are going to get burnt out when you're not actually in combat. But you need to make sure you're ready for combat. So who really decides what the best balance is there?
Well, that's a tough answer. I mean, that's the standard thing. Like, who do you blame for an accident if it happens? So if an accident happened, who do you blame? So, I mean, who decides what's training? It goes all the way up to the 4-star, the charge of the Air Force, and filters down from there. But so if you definitely wanted to stop and to find the point where the brightest light of training is, you would have to say the weapons officers, the guys that go to weapons school, come back. They are there to teach the instructors in your squadron. So they're the best pilot, or they're definitely, if not the best pilot, one of the best pilots, but their forte is they're the best instructor pilots. So they teach the instructors how to be instructors for the squadron. So you have to have instructors teaching you how to fly, and then they have to have instructors and teaching the instructors how to fly, and that's what the weapons officers are. And they're the best of the best. They're the top gun in the Air Force.
Awesome. And so Okinawa, your first time. Any other things you remember there? Next is Alabama, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Okinawa's great. You love it. Michaela loves it. Cindy loves it. And it was a great squadron. Nothing bad to say about Okinawa at all. Nothing at all to say bad about it. It's great memories. I would go back there in a heartbeat. So I love that. And then coming up on sometimes after your first assignment, you have to take a second assignment. The guys that are good pilots, really good fighter pilots, they go on to fly the F-15 again. Some guys that are not that good go back to UPT to be instructor pilots, but I had already done that, so I was caught in between a rock and a hard place. I wasn't really good enough to get a operations F-15 tour, and I had already done the training, so I pursued the F-117 and put my name in the ring to get an F-117. And it sounds competitive, and it kind of was, but it wasn't that hard to get. If you're an F-15 pilot, you can fly the 117 for sure. So
I'm sure a lot of F-15 guys they try to stick to F-15s after they get the taste of it.
Yeah, everybody tries to, but there's just not enough to go around. I mean, if nobody ever left the F-15, then no other jobs would get done.
I would definitely want to try to get the stealth, the F-117, that Nighthawk, because that just looks like such a sweet looking aircraft, and you just think of like Skunk Works and Lockheed and all that goes into that. That had to be a cool experience.
Yeah, it was. It was a great plan B. I mean, and once I got there, then I treated it just like the F-15 squadron. You wanted to do the best you can, and you still were preparing to be lethal if you needed to. You're preparing the same way to do a mission that the Air Force needed. Same mindset.
And you were one of the first squadrons with the F-117, right? Because it was pretty new, where you guys had to all know each other, right? Or
I don't know if it's been. I don't know when it started. It was in the black world for a while, where it was classified. So
yeah,
I was like the 500th in the 500 to 600 range of people that have flown it. So I don't like to give out. It doesn't matter. It's not classified, but I was 562nd. I'm banned at 562.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're out there in New Mexico learning. Yeah. So how do you learn a new aircraft? Is it a structured program, or is it if it's classified? Yeah, don't tell them.
No, the cool thing about the 117 is that they only have single seat models. So the first time you do simulators, but the first time you fly in a jet, you're in a multi-million-dollar jet all by yourself, and you don't have an instructor with you, so you have to land it your first time. So that is a really cool bragging point.
Terrifying, cool or terrifying thing.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, you had all that pressure in the F-15, but it's a different kind of pressure. Now you learn a new jet, and so once again, they're all fighter pilots too. So the training in the 117 is excellent because most of them were all fighter pilots that were training each other, anyways. So it was great.
And I was selfishly, I'm glad there. You never deployed, of my knowledge, and it was normal length tour, and then you get ACSE, which
Yeah.
is pretty competitive. How'd you get that?
Yeah, just so probably barely above the line, but I got selected to go to ACSE at timing. Usually if you're going to stay in the military as a career, you need to have that to progress, and so I was selected for that, and went. Timing was right. Sometimes in people's career the timing isn't right and they don't get to go, but my timing was working out perfectly, and I got to go to Alabama from there. That was when 911 happened. When I was there, we started in the summer of 2001.
Could you first off, what is ACSE for? What does
Air
it stand
Command and
for?
Staff College. Air Command and Staff College is to teach officers how to be squadron commanders, how to
And how
teach
long
them.
is the program
It's a
normally?
year long, and you get a master's from it. So I got a master's in military operational art and science from it. So
Nice.
I guess that was my first master's degree. Now I think about it. Or no, it was my second. I had my MBA online when I was at Alamogordo, so it was my second.
And was that just trying to keep learning, in the military, you need a master's to promote. And so you're just maximizing your time, or were you
Yeah, just
interested in
once again,
finance?
no, just doing what they told me. And oh, you mean when I was getting my MBA?
Hmm.
No, I just wanted to. I knew that they paid for it, and I knew you needed a degree and to progress, or needed a master's degree to get promoted. And you weren't guaranteed to get to go to Air Command and Staff College, so I still wanted to be able to get promoted, even if I didn't get selected for that. So I went ahead and made sure I had my master's. But that changes back and forth. It depends on what time. Some people say no, it's not important to have a master's. Some people do, based on the promotion. It varies.
Yeah. And how was ACSE as a course? The
Yeah.
day-to-day difficulty.
A bunch of good stories, a bunch of good people from all of the Air Force. Not all the pilots, so that was good. You had a handful of pilots, or a lot of pilots, but just other people in the Air Force doing other things, other missions, Space Force, logistics, supply, intel. So you get to hear about everybody's, fellow officers that are majors, and so they're sharp people, and they got good stories about their job too. So that was fun, and it was a good year. You're in two different groups. You do half the year with one group, and then they shuffle it up, and you do half the year with the second group. So I made a bunch of good friends there.
I can tell Montgomery has a soft spot for you because you still
Still
talk
does.
highly of Alabama.
Thinking about it this morning when I was listening to Better Pockets podcast, and thinking about long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and how I think long-term rentals in Montgomery is a possibility for me because I can take care of them from here, and I know the area, and I mean if something goes bad with it, I can get there in 2-3 hours and fix it. So uh, I think Montgomery's a possibility. It just depends on the political climate and what goes on, but I do love Montgomery.
Yeah,
And
and
Michaela went to school there.
Michaela, yeah, Huntington
Yeah,
College, Hockham. Anyone's
yeah, Hockham.
I don't know what they do. They do the
I got a
little,
Hockham,
yeah,
got a Hockham and a
hang
Hockham
loose.
as a kid.
And so I really enjoyed Montgomery there. That's where was that the first house no, we bought a house in March. So that was the second house we've had, I believe.
Yeah, we almost bought one in Alamogordo, but we didn't. So the whole time, so yeah, that was our second house,
Yeah,
and it was a nice house. Mom's good at picking good houses. She's always picked good locations, good houses.
definitely. And that's when ping pong started getting big. We had a ping pong table in the carport, and so
Yeah.
the rest was history. But
Well, yeah,
so
and sadly, 911 happened, and the whole school shut down until we figured things out there. So I had a lot of free time during that year because we weren't in the fight because we were at school while everybody else was getting ready to fight, and so we were just not on the front lines. So it wasn't really as stressful as that year of school was a lot. It's, bad to say, but it's a lot easier. 911 made that year a lot different for us.
I wonder, were there any classmates that had to go deploy, or usually if they don't mess with school, or I don't know if
No,
maybe some guys.
I don't have any. I don't have any cases that I know of where people were pulled out of school to go back to fight, but
Yeah,
they were all whatchamacallit, counseled or talked to, and consulted about what to do if they were big into their unit, but I don't remember anybody actually leaving. But I definitely could be wrong about that. I
You
didn't
probably
know
had
it
like
was
special
1,000
forces
people.
guys there too, right? It wasn't, so you said not just pilots.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you heard what was going on. That's for sure. We knew what
Yeah.
was going on in the world.
Well, how was the cultural shift after 9/11 happened in the military? Because before that, I mean, you had some deployments, but nothing like that. And now, real shit's going down. Could you feel
Right.
a different sense after 9/11 in the Air Force?
Definitely. It's just all, yeah, I mean, for sure. And uh, that this was 2001, of course, when 911 happened, and I retired in 2008. So it was a slow, steady, uh, you know, that made me retire at 2008 from all the stuff that was going on, good and bad, things I've seen, things I didn't see, things I heard about. So obviously, if you just never know what would have happened, but from 911 to the time I retired, it was a steady downhill feeling of what was going on in the military.
Yeah. And luckily, I mean, so you finished out school and you got F-15s again. So how'd
Right.
you
So
how'd
that was
you
cool.
yeah, how'd you find that out?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it was just a natural place to go as far as a pilot, and I couldn't go. I didn't have any other place to go, and I was a senior, so I can be a senior leader now. So I come into the squadron and don't have to be uh, a young fighter pilot. I can be more of a good fighter pilot as a leader, and that's when I went into a squadron as a major and did other jobs that didn't require day-to-day flying. I flew as much as I could, but I was more of a senior leader of the squadron.
And how, because ACSC too, you graduated with some award there. I forgot what it was exactly. Were you like
Is I th- with
you
ACSC
did
award?
you did well at ACSC, right? Like you got. I thought that
Yeah, I'm not
does that
sure.
play into your assignments at all, or did they already know before, depending on ACSC? Like it definitely doesn't hurt to do too bad, but I don't know how
Right.
much it.
Yeah, I don't remember stressing about my assignments. It's not like I did. I knew I was going to go somewhere good after ACSC.
Yeah.
It was either going to be England or Okinawa. And I think if I wanted to go back to Okinawa, I think I could, and I did, and I wanted to.
And then you're a chief of safety there. Is that like a collateral duty? Being the
Yes.
chief of
All yeah.
safety for the base.
Yep. As a major, you could either be like an assistant operations officer, and then if you become a lieutenant colonel, then you can be operations officer, maybe a squadron commander somewhere, chief of safety. There's different jobs at those levels that are a little bit outside the day-to-day operations of the squadron. And I was first, I was assistant operations officer of a squadron, and then I went to a kind of in charge of some advanced programs in a kind of a classified environment, and then was a chief of safety. So I had all good jobs when I was there. My second tour, I enjoyed all three of those jobs.
Do you feel like you learned more because you didn't have to just your full job wasn't just flying the whole time. You actually had a little different responsibilities. If you took anything away from that, or it was kind of the same.
Definitely leadership improved at that point. I was always a good leader, but I got better then at those times doing those jobs because you were responsible for a lot of things as you get higher up in rank.
What's your take on that? Because that's what I think is the big difference between like Navy pilots and Air Force pilots. Navy pilots, you're the division officer. They have like sailors they're in charge of, and the role of like the being the leader in that team is very big. Where, from my understanding, Air Force, you're there to fly, and the maintainers kind of have their own chain of command, and you're not
Yeah,
super involved with that.
yeah. Until you get up into high leadership positions, you still have people under you in the Air Force. You have people if you're a flight commander, you have people in your flight that you write reports for. But your main job for the first few years is just to fly. That's it. That's the only thing you have to concentrate on.
Yeah. And so you still get to fly the F-15 there. Your second tour in Okinawa. Do you remember what it was like that last Finney flight,
Yeah,
landing and pulling the runway for the last time in the F-15?
yeah, and it builds up to it because you're getting close. The weeks prior, the months prior, this is coming to an end. So, and then the last one it is. But the knowing that in the last few weeks, I started to realize, it's got to happen. And me being a rational person, I knew that you had to take your last flight. You have to do something for the last time all the time. So I knew that it had to be done type thing. Almost like, a good analogy is putting sad for you, but putting the dog down, you don't want to do it, but you know it needs to be done. So I didn't want to have it be my last flight, but everybody has a last flight.
That's why I think any of those events should be very celebratory. Like even funerals, I think it should be focused on celebrating. Finney flight is very pomp and circumstance. We get you get your family out there, and you walk down the ladder, and we just spray the hell out of you with the fire hose. And of course, I was going for your face, but I don't know. It's just so I have all those good memories, and it should be. It is inherently sad, and I think a lot of people, big time when you leave the military, and because that is your goal, and that's all you have to think about is I'm going to dominate the F-15 today, and I'm going to be a fighter pilot, and just your actions every day are justified by that, and it adds a sense of pride and just happiness. And then you got to shift it somehow, or it comes to the end. So I feel like it's really a big cause of people getting down on themselves and depression or whatever you want to call it. But that's why I think the mindset shift should be celebratory. And now I have all this energy. I can go do something else.
Yep, exactly.
But
yeah,
so you knew that was the last time you were flying the F-15? Did you have any thoughts?
I knew I was retiring. I knew I was going to retire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing the best I can with the remaining 2 years of my career. So
why'd you pick Texas? I know you had some options, and then you picked Texas for your final assignment to get ready to transition to the civilian world.
Yeah, I think I knew then I was going to be I don't know why I picked Shepherd.
I don't know if you want to talk about the baseball school. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Oh, well, that was before. Was that? Yeah, I guess it was before. That's what it was. Yeah. Now that you see, I didn't even remember that until you just said that. That's why I picked Shepherd, is because we had already had the house in the small house in Bridgeport, and I bought that big house and needed to go there. So, yeah, we don't need to go into the specifics of that, other than you're right. That's what caused me to pick Shepherd as my final place to go, because I thought I was going to open up a baseball school and our house.
Yeah, and so what's your role at Shepherd there?
As a bunch again with the Air Training Command. So instead of flying the T-38 with students, I was flying the T-37 with students. So helping pilot training, just helping people earn their wings. That's what I did when I first started as a second lieutenant, and then as a lieutenant colonel, I came back and helped, fly with students. And I was the highest ranking in the squadron, the English guy, but the squadron commander was Italian, because Shepherd has European fighters also, or pilots also. And I worked for an Italian, and if the English people had any kind of English issues that only Air Force could handle, then I handled their issues for them. But I was not a squadron commander. I don't know what my job title was.
How'd you like that compared to being in squadron flying? Any pros, or just kind of missing flying?
Yeah, I still flew quite. As a matter of fact, I flew quite a bit there, because you just not enough people, and so people had to fly the missions. A lot of students and not enough pilots. So I flew quite a bit there. But it was still a great bunch of guys, and I enjoyed the squadron. The thing is that you've heard, and I don't know if you heard it, but the answer is, and it's kind of true, the best squadron you've ever been in is the one you're in right now. So you always got to think that. So even when I was in the 89th Flying Training Squadron, I thought it was the greatest squadron. When I was in 67th, I thought it was the greatest. When I was in 44th, I thought it was the greatest. When I was in the 9th, I thought it was the greatest. And, obviously you look back on it, and I would never say out loud what the best one is, but everybody's got their favorites. But when you're in the moment, the place you are is your favorite squadron.
And so you retire in 2008, and that covers about 25 years from when you initially enlisted as a linguist there in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I don't know
go ahead. I only got 20% battery, and I'm not plugged in, but I don't know how long I can go plug in, or we can start. I got 20% left on the battery.
Yeah, we can start wrapping it up, because I mainly want to focus on career. And you transitioned to proposal management, super successful there, and now you're doing that as kind of consulting on the side. And you're also, so if you pull up your Twitter bio, it's I don't remember it verbatim, but it's baseball player, fighter pilot, and Superhost. So I wanted to go into that, how you ended up being an Airbnb Superhost, and any tips you have for anyone wanting to get into real estate or short-term rentals, and how you're enjoying that.
Well, I mean, the timing worked out. Once again, Mom picked a good place and got us a good place in a good location. It's right by our house. It's a one-bedroom short-term rental, and it's really nice. And started doing that. But really, as far as the customer service goes, I would be successful in any customer service job, and I think anybody who does things right would be successful in today's world. I mean, if you just treat people halfway decent, you're in the upper echelon of customer service today. That's my opinion. So I knew I would be successful. My boss and I talk about this all the time. No matter what business we decided to go into, or I decided to go into, it's going to be exceptional customer service. And when I got the chance to be Airbnb, I just did what I think is right. Show up right place, right time, whatever. Make it clean and do the way you'd like to be treated, and it's been worked out perfectly. The guests are giving me good reviews. It's nothing I'm doing special. I'm not trying. I guess I am trying, but it's almost like the expectation is this is how it ought to work in the world. If you were going on vacation with your family, this is how it ought to be. And so that's the way I try to do it. And it just so happens that level of effort makes me a super host.
No, but it's definitely it's fun to go through those reviews and see the reviews, and a lot of them are cleanliness. So I think you do that well, and the thing that I was impressed, and what you did differently than I would have done. Like when you're starting off, you would meet the people, at the room. You would invite them over for like drinks if they wanted to drink, and that kind of stuff. What prompted that?
I still do that. I think I've always liked listening to people's stories and meeting people, even though I kind of, I don't know if I'm standoffish or whatever, maybe because I'm so tall or whatever, but in general, I would talk to anybody. Maybe get that from my mom and my brother or whatever, but I enjoy people's stories. I think everybody's just like you're doing in this podcast. Everybody thinks I have a cool story. I think everybody's story is cool, and I would listen to anybody's story if it was authentic and they were telling me the truth. I just think so. I get people on my Airbnb from all over the nation, and if they want to tell me their story, I'd love to, especially if they're cool people. Obviously if I don't like them, I don't spend as much time as I can. But most people are pretty cool, and I love hearing about them.
Nice.
That's a good way to spend I think it's a good way to spend your time, is to listen to enjoy other people's company, especially if you like them.
And yeah, that's a big reason you motivated me to make this podcast, because I have great interactions with people, and every person's story is different, and the path they take is interesting, and the lessons they learn. So definitely appreciate you taking a couple hours of your day and doing this. And do you have any advice or last save rounds, where if you have young guys going in the military, or people interested in Airbnb or just general life advice for the listeners?
I mean, a good one is, keep, don't speak unless you can improve the silence. That's a really good one. So as you go through your life, only say things that make things easier, better, faster, cheaper, stuff like that. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of lessons learned, but if you want to ask, that's a good one that you learn as being a fighter pilot is, if you have something to say, think about what you want to say it to yourself once, and then shut the F up. So only say things when you can improve the silence.
That's good. I like it. That's in submarines. We do something similar. Anything on the open mic or the 1MC, you gotta think what you're gonna say, pause, say it in your head, and then click. Because you hear a bunch of people start clicking that thing and a bunch of gibberish, and it's embarrassing. So that's a good advice to end on. You want to plug your Twitter or Instagram? You got anything to plug?
Yeah, I do. I mean, both of them are at Mike White 29. That was my baseball number 29. So at Mike White 29 is my Twitter, and it's my Instagram. And if you DM me there or write to me there, I'll send you my Airbnb reviews or whatever. I'd love to contact anybody who's listening to this. And I watch your Twitter follower feed go up slowly. I see mine going up a little bit, but it's fun to contact. I'm enjoying the social media aspect, and I'm sure you are too.
Oh yeah, I think it's amazing how we have access to all these different people all over the world. So I know there's a lot of there's a lot of bad that can go from it, but ultimately I think it's what you make of it, and there's a lot of great possibilities. So
thanks for doing this. Who would have ever thought that you would be doing this for me? I really appreciate it. I thought when you asked me last night, I was getting like a schoolgirl. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, next time I'll give you more of a notice. So thanks for coming on here in short notice, and you are the first guest on the Mike White podcast.
All right.
See you.
Love you, MJ.
Love you.
Yeah.